Hello, hello, hello! Welcome back to another episode of Speak English with Luna. I am so happy you are here today. Truly, I am. Today is going to be a very special episode because we are talking about something that everyone wants, but everyone struggles with. We are talking about the secret bridge between being a student and being a master. We are talking about discipline. But before we start, I have a little challenge for you. Yes, you, listening right now. This conversation is going to start easy. It's going to be nice and comfortable, but as we go deeper, the English is going to get harder. I'm going to use more complex words, and my guest, Ethan, is going to share some very deep thoughts. Do you think you can stay until the very end? Do you think you can push your brain to keep up? I bet you can. Now, let's welcome our guest. His name is Ethan. He is a writer and a mentor, and honestly, he is one of the most disciplined people I have ever met. Ethan, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Luna. It is a pleasure to be here. I am looking forward to this conversation. Discipline is a heavy word for many people, but I think we can make it feel a bit lighter today.
I hope so, because for me and for many of our listeners, discipline feels like a chore. It feels like doing things we hate. But you have a different view, don't you? You think discipline is actually a form of freedom.
I do. I truly do. Most people think freedom is the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want. But if you have no discipline, you are just a slave to your moods. You are a slave to your laziness. Discipline is the tool that allows you to actually achieve what you want in life, like speaking a new language fluently.
I love that. A slave to your moods. That is so true. Some days I wake up and I think, I don't want to record a podcast today, or I don't want to study. If I listen to that mood, I stay in the same place. So, listeners, are you ready? We are going to dive into the truth about discipline and how it is the only real way to reach fluency. Stay with us because, like I said, the challenge is just beginning. I know that hearing about discipline and being a slave to your moods might sound a bit intense. Maybe you're thinking, Luna, I just want to learn some vocabulary, not get a life lesson. But don't worry, this is a safe space. Ethan and I are here to support you, not to judge you. We all have days where we feel lazy or overwhelmed. We all have days where we don't want to study English. That is completely normal.
That is very true, Luna. Even today, I had a moment where I didn't want to get out of bed to work on my new book. The important thing for all of you listening is to realize that language learning is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You don't need to be perfect today. You just need to show up.
Show up. I love that phrase. It means just being there, even if you are tired. For our listeners, showing up means just pressing play on this podcast. Even if you don't understand every single word right now, you are doing the work. You are training your ears and your brain. You are already winning just by being here with us.
Exactly. When you feel safe and relaxed, your brain actually learns much faster. If you're stressed about making mistakes or not understanding, your brain shuts down. So take a deep breath. There's no pressure here. We are just two friends talking, and you are part of the conversation.
That's right. We're a team. And as we move forward, remember that it's okay to feel a little bit challenged. That challenge is where the growth happens. But for now, just relax and enjoy the rhythm of the language. Ethan, you mentioned earlier that even you have days where you don't want to get out of bed. I think that is so refreshing to hear. People often look at successful speakers or writers and think, oh, they must have some magical motivation that I don't have. But you're saying that's not it, right? It's not about how you feel?
Precisely, Luna. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are like the weather in Seattle, unpredictable and often gray. If I only wrote when I felt inspired, I would have written maybe 3 pages in the last 10 years. Discipline, however, is a system. It's a commitment to the process regardless of the internal resistance you feel. Let me share a story from a few years ago. I was trying to learn a very complex skill. It wasn't a language, it was woodworking, but the principle is exactly the same as learning English.
Oh, woodworking. That sounds tactile and difficult. Please tell us more. What happened when the initial excitement wore off?
In the beginning, I was obsessed. I bought all the tools, I watched every video. I was in what we call the honeymoon phase. But about 3 months in, I hit a wall. Everything I made looked terrible. My joints didn't fit, the wood was splitting, and I felt like I had no natural talent. I started making excuses. I told myself, maybe I'm just not a handy person. This is the exact moment where most English learners quit. They hit that intermediate plateau where the progress isn't visible every day and the cognitive load feels too heavy.
The intermediate plateau. That is such a perfect way to describe it. I see this all the time with my students. They start with so much energy, but then the grammar gets complicated, the phrasal verbs start to overlap, and they feel like they are standing still. They feel like they are failing because it's not easy anymore.
Right, and that is where I had to make a choice. I realized that my frustration wasn't a sign that I should stop, it was a sign that I was actually learning. I decided to stop focusing on the perfect table and start focusing on the daily hour. I told myself, Ethan, for the next 6 months, you will spend 60 minutes in the shop every morning at 6 a.m. It doesn't matter if you make something beautiful or if you just sweep the floor. You just have to be there. That shift from outcome to process changed everything.
Wow, that is such a powerful shift. You stopped worrying about the result and started honoring the schedule. I think for someone listening right now, that might be a light bulb moment. Maybe they're worried because they can't speak perfectly yet, but they should be celebrating the fact that they listened to this podcast for 15 minutes today.
Exactly. And as I continued, something interesting happened, and this is where the English gets a bit more aspirational for our listeners. I developed what psychologists call grit. Grit is the perseverance and passion for long-term goals. It's the ability to sustain your efforts over years, not just weeks. In English fluency, grit is more important than intelligence. I've seen people with average language skills become incredibly eloquent because they simply refuse to quit. They embrace the nuances of the language through sheer repetition and exposure.
Refused to quit. I love that. And you know, Ethan, as we are talking, I'm noticing we are using more complex ideas. Words like nuances, eloquent, perseverance, and cognitive load. For everyone listening, if you are still here, you are practicing grit right now. You're leaning into the difficulty. Ethan, can you explain why the brain finds discipline so hard? Why does our mind try to talk us out of studying?
It's a biological survival mechanism, Luna. Our brains are wired to conserve energy. Learning a new language, especially moving into those C1 advanced levels, requires an enormous amount of metabolic energy. Your brain would much rather scroll through social media or watch a familiar show because it's safe and easy. When you challenge yourself with complex English, your brain sends out signals of discomfort to try to get you to stop. It's essentially a false alarm.
So that feeling of, oh, this is too hard, I want to stop, is actually just my brain being lazy? It's not because I'm not smart enough.
Exactly. It's just your brain trying to save electricity, so to speak. If you can recognize that discomfort as a sign of growth, like the burn in your muscles when you lift weights, you can learn to actually enjoy it. You begin to realize that the struggle is the sound of your brain rewiring itself.
I love that. The struggle is the sound of your brain rewiring itself. That is going to be my new mantra. It makes the hard work feel like an achievement rather than a burden. We've talked about the philosophy of discipline, but I want to get practical. Our listeners want to know, how do we actually build this habit? How do we move from this B2 level, where we understand most things, to that C1 level, where we can express complex, abstract thoughts with ease?
It comes down to deliberate practice. It's not just about hearing the language, it's about engaging with it. It's about pushing yourself to use that one big word you learned today in a sentence. It's about listening to a podcast like this and then trying to summarize it out loud to yourself in the shower. It's about being intentional.
Discipline is the bridge, but deliberate practice is the walking you do across that bridge.
That is so inspiring. I can feel the energy shifting. I think our listeners are starting to see that fluency isn't a gift given to a lucky few. It's a house built brick by brick, day by day, through the discipline of showing up. That was so deep, Ethan. Now, let's slow down for a second and take a look at our word tour. We used some very aspirational vocabulary in that last part, and I want to make sure our listeners can actually use these words today.
Great idea, Luna. Let's start with grit. G-R-I-T. As I mentioned, grit is about perseverance. It's having the courage and the stomach to keep going when things are boring or difficult. For example, she had the grit to keep studying her English verbs even after a 10-hour shift at work.
I love that. And what about plateau? P-L-A-T-A-U-E. I use that to describe a stage where you feel stuck. It's like a flat area on top of a mountain. You climb so high, but now you're not going up anymore. Example, I've hit a plateau in my speaking skills, so I need to try a new method.
Exactly. Then we have nuance. N-U-A-N-C-E. These are the tiny, subtle differences in meaning. When you reach a high level of English, you start to understand the nuances between words like happy, cheerful, and ecstatic.
Oh, that's a good one. And finally, let's talk about deliberate practice. This isn't just practicing, it's practicing with a specific goal and focus. Example, watching a movie is fun, but summarizing the plot out loud is deliberate practice.
Perfect examples, Luna. If you use these words, you will definitely sound like a C1 speaker.
We have learned some truly amazing words today, haven't we? But now it is time to turn the spotlight on you. This is our community challenge. We don't want you to just listen and forget. We want you to take action.
That's right, Luna. Knowledge without action is just information. To build discipline, you have to start small. So here is my question for the community. What is one tiny English habit that you can commit to doing every single day for the next 30 days, even when you were tired or busy?
I love that question. Is it listening to 5 minutes of this podcast? Is it writing one sentence in your journal using a word like grit? Whatever it is, tell us. When you share your goal, it becomes real. We want to see your commitment in the comments, or just say it out loud to yourself right now. What is your daily habit? We did it! We have reached the very end of this episode. Now, I have to ask you, honestly, did you make it? Did you stay with us until this very moment? If you are hearing my voice right now, then you just proved to yourself that you have the grit we talked about. You pushed through the difficult vocabulary and the deep concepts. That's a huge win for your English progress. Ethan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. You really made discipline feel like something possible for everyone.
It was my absolute pleasure, Luna. Remember, everyone, fluency isn't a destination you reach overnight. It's a journey you take one disciplined step at a time. Don't worry about being perfect, just worry about being consistent. Keep showing up for yourself. You are doing better than you think.
What a perfect way to end. Thank you, Ethan. And to you, our wonderful listener, if you enjoyed this journey today, please follow Speak English with Luna and share this episode with a friend who is also on their English journey. Your support helps us keep creating these lessons for you. Until next time, keep practicing, stay disciplined, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.